Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way, and co-hosting with me tonight we have Bill Hannon and Kathy Costa. Our guest, we waited a while for him to come. As a matter of fact, it's a long series of stuff, but I took some classes with him, and it's been a while in coming. We have not had anybody on here that does runes. And this is a man that has done runes since he was 14. This is Sheldon. And he's a very good teacher.
Thank you.
As well as teaching a very interesting subject. What started you with runes at that age?
I had a book on symbols. It was just all different symbology. It had runes. I'd never really heard of them or knew what they were. And I was actually initially attracted to their ability to help me write stories different. So in writing stories or hero's journey, there's architecture they usually fill in and the same type of things. And it just really broke the patterns to put them out. And it was just neat to have what motivates this character and what motivates this character. And you could really get some very interesting stuff. And then I just kind of tried it on myself. I was like, oh, this is actually a little profound. I didn't use the word profound at 14. But looking back, it was a very interesting story. Yeah, just cut open a cardboard box, put the runes on it. It's off to the races.
Oh, that's interesting. Concept of, yeah, very good.
So now, do you make your own runes now?
Yep, I've made several sets, and almost everything that I make ends up given away. So I bought a set that I like, and it'd feel funny to give it away.
Oh, yeah.
He's got one that looks like little sticks, like little bones or sticks. And that.
Did you make that one, or was that bought?
No, that was one I bought. I have made them out of sticks and made some out of bones. And
Oh, that's interesting. So what you guys decided on making the runes?
I like to make all kinds of stuff.
Oh, okay, so it's just like crafting.
Yeah, metalworking, leather, wood.
Oh, so you do all sorts of stuff like that. That's interesting.
I think that's super spiritual. That's something I think a lot of people maybe don't talk on shows or really understand, but super cathartic and.
Right. As far as the concept and then the cutting and then the piecing and then cleaning and then the welding or whatever. Just
the time spent just goes away. I used to come home from work. I started doing 3D art, and I'd come home from work and I would do it till I went to work the next day, just tweaking little pieces that nobody would ever see, and just get lost in it.
You saw.
I know it doesn't sound great, but the practice itself, I can see your face holy cow. But for me, I could get lost in it and just love it.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit nerdy for some of us, though, but that's a good kind of nerdy, though.
I'm all over nerdy,
It's a good kind of nerdy, though.
Should add that at the front matter.
So you use different mediums?
Nerdy, holistic spotlight.
So you use different metals, or they all seem to have a different vibration level.
Oh yeah, everything's a little different everywhere.
What like TIG or?
Yep. So I've done TIG and MIG. I took my son blacksmithing, copper foiling,
Interesting.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Very good.
Love making.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Super spiritual. That could be a whole.
Whole different
Show.
topic, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, along with your shamanism.
Yep.
And when did you start that?
I only started that probably 8 or 9 years ago, I'd say. And I would say about 3 years in, I started some other practicing with people, as opposed to just a book I found from 1990. That was called Core Shamanism, The Way of the Shaman. Very popular book that kind of introduced it to America, and really nice. And I did stuff out of the book that I thought was in the book that wasn't, and had crazy experiences. And I started working with people locally and folks up in Maine, and then all of a sudden it was oh, I want to teach this. And then I was at the same time I figured out what I wanted to do before I started teaching, and that took me 5 years, up till about a year ago.
Yeah.
So I've only been teaching for a little while, but the personal practice has been outstanding.
right?
Absolutely outstanding.
And it's also interesting, I mean, when you mentioned the native lore, how a lot of the native indigenous people here work with bones also.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, that was a big thing in the Celtic area where a lot of the runes and castings,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting
Absolutely.
how things go around. I also now know in Africa they also use bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, cowrie shells.
Right,
Yeah, you use what you got.
right. It's just a divination tool.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's interesting how universal it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to use candles as a divination tool. The spent wax.
Oh
I would
yeah,
read
yeah,
the
like
spent
reading tea
wax.
leaves. I mean, again, it's just another tool.
Yeah, I've seen candles melt and it looks like angels weeping sometimes.
Yes.
Like, especially if you leave like a fan or something on, you'll get all kinds of like crazy things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You got lots to look at or dig into.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know with mine, my son went walking by and I had some spent wax. And he said, "Ma, how'd you make an angel out of that wax?" And I said, "I didn't."
Yeah.
But they were working with me. That was before they were working with me.
Yeah, they're trying to let you know to work with them, though, that's for sure. Yeah. So, for the shamanism part, though, do you know any Native Americans that are shamans? Do you work with them at all?
So, first of all, I mean, I guess I'll backtrack. Some people get offended or whatever. To me, the shamanic stuff, the way I've read it, was actually more like Inuit or Siberian, Mongolian,
So like
Native
before
American
North
stuff.
American,
Like
yeah.
a lot of Native Americans I do know don't always use or like that word. So it's actually a shamanic word meaning like I know, or a Mongolian word that means like I know. But then each tribe has their own, right?
Yeah.
So lots
That's
of Native
right.
Americans they prefer like medicine man or I don't want to speak for anybody,
Right.
or what bothers them or not.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
actually is more of like a Mongolian practice that spread out, but it did get over. It definitely got over
Okay.
to like Finland.
Sure, sure. And then also you look at the practice of using mushrooms,
Yeah,
and some of the mushrooms are very prominent in the colder regions
absolutely.
that are used for
Reindeer.
shamanic work.
Flying reindeer, that's where they come from.
Yeah,
Fun fact, I
I was
guess.
wondering about that,
How are you?
you know?
Let those reindeer go free.
You know?
See what they come up with.
Just let them graze.
yeah.
They know what they are.
Really, you know?
They know the good stuff.
Very interesting, yeah.
I just can picture a glowing reindeer.
You know?
But to get back to some of what you were saying on the Native American side, it's all over. South America actually has got a very rich practice. So there's something I've read in books that they call core shamanism, just to like wane academic, and it's kind of, they did like a Venn diagram of all these things, and there's like overlapping pieces in the middle. They're very simple.
Right,
Here's a drum, and you
Right.
get what you want. If you want to heal somebody else, that's what you bring.
Right.
You want to do. There's so many things that you can do with just that core piece.
right,
In fact, the guy that wrote that book, his name was Harner. People reach back out to him to say, like, can you help us, like, kickstart our stuff? He was like a fantastic pioneer, like bringing that to
Yeah.
the West and America specifically. I shouldn't say the West. It was been there a long time.
Yeah.
But fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
So do you have any circles, though, for the shaman ideology that you use?
Can you say that again?
Do you have any circles of the that fall under the shaman ideology, though, or is it just you just have a community of people that work with that? Or do you?
Oh, do I have like a specific group you mean that I work
a
with?
circle of people.
So I work with Evelyn Reisdack up in Maine.
Okay.
Very early in what was going on. I think she was up here from, I think, Arizona. Fantastic personality, and she just did like a gratitude moment. It was just like 5 minutes, and I had never done it before, and I just like cried, and I owe her a huge debt of gratitude, because now I can, just thinking about that, it's like I could get misty again. So I'll get like misty like 10 times a day. Fantastic. And then Kathy Rossi, local. I worked with him for a little bit, with her for a little while. Great stuff. Fire Seed, I think is the name of her place. Yeah. I can't recommend her enough. Good stuff.
Oh, that's interesting, though. Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting how you got into that, though. So, is there still stuff that you're still learning about the shamanism?
Oh, every day. Like
Okay.
the practice is so open.
Okay.
Like a lot of stuff I'd like to unpack. So like the runes, there's been lots of books written since the 70s.
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's kind of become
Absolutely.
its own beast.
Okay.
But you can really do different things and look at it differently, and I definitely encourage that. And the shamanism is wide open. The way you approach it and what you get,
Right.
you just bring trust. And you get different guides, you get
That's
different
right.
journeys, you get anything.
Okay.
I feel like the shamanism, more than anything, you're like touching spirit or touching divinity. You just show up and it's like, okay, what do I need? And I think animals come because we trust them. Like
Right.
the messengers, I think are as important as the message.
Those are
Like,
very, very interesting times when one of them steps into your field of vision.
Yeah. And I think they come a lot of times, animals. This was a book, this is just my opinion. But I think the messenger is important if you have trust issues. Like we don't trust ourselves, we don't trust our parents or our teachers or anybody, right? We have like
Gotcha.
trust issues, or you
Right.
know, you're your car salesman or whatever. But then when there's like, oh, here's a dog or here's a bear or whatever, there's something in us that just opens up a little bit.
Right.
And that little bit pushes over in a really good way.
So do you, obviously, you're talking about times when it's spontaneous, but what about when you're setting yourself in a position to help somebody specifically? Is there a certain regimen or train of thought that you adopt to open yourself up to receive?
Are you talking for healing or like a divination or both?
I was leaning towards divination, but whatever you have to share is what we're here for.
So it actually is pretty general. Like, I don't like giving away my secrets, but pretty much I'll drum and go in and be like, all right, this is what I need. Where's my A team? And and then like sort of whatever
Right.
shows up, and they're
That's
trying
right.
to do their thing.
Oh, I
and-
respect that. Don't get me. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been told other times that this is between us. You know, you know, this is not to be shared. You know, at the point in time, I realize I'm in a lesson, so I have to honor that, and So, but I also understand. That's the reason why I was asking. I mean, sometimes something comes to you spontaneously.
Oh yeah. Even not drumming or.
Oh no,
Like
you don't need that
anytime.
vibration all the time, but that's a good vibration to work with.
But there's all different methods, and I've read lots of other practices. Like sometimes you'll get multiple shamans, and they'll pretend to be on a raft, like taking somewhere, you know, on a new adventure or whatever. So there's so many different techniques. But to even just say like this is, you know, shamanic practice is this. It's like so wild and varied, and probably hundreds of thousands of years. As long as we've had drums, people have probably been doing something that would qualify.
Right.
It's so easy to tap into. It's very approachable.
Right. I mean, I've been blessed with the opportunity at times where I'll have a teacher taking a classroom of people down through the many levels into inner earth until you meet the snake at the core of the earth. And I remember first time I met him, boom, I got kicked right out. But the teacher warned us ahead of time. If you get kicked out, just go right back down there.
Yeah.
And I did, and I was able to stay. It was really something that you can't put into words.
Absolutely.
Someone kicked you out?
Yeah.
They didn't
There
know
are
who
people
they
have
were
more
messing
authority
with.
than I, believe me.
Yeah, there's definitely some of it you can almost use a little bit of like metaphysical hypnosis as well, and sort of guide journeys.
Well, that's
For sure,
When I
for
do
sure.
right, a lot of times I'll use that doing past life regression. I'll use like a guided imagery type of thing.
Yeah.
I've also taken classes with hypnosis.
Yep.
So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yep. And then other times you just let it go, and the stuff that happens. Like there's no guide. It's just like, I will sometimes have a group of people, not usually the first time people have done it, and be like, everybody ready? And people have intentions, or sometimes I offer intentions, and here's what you can do in backup or whatever, and then you just let people go, and they get what they need.
Yeah, it's trusting the process is definitely a big thing.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, it's just
Definitely.
holding space and trusting them and hoping they trust themselves.
Yeah, well, even if they don't trust themselves, I think the process still works. They just doubt it a little bit more.
Yeah, they do.
So it's still there though. Am I correct to think that you started the runes first, right? And the
Yeah, the
shamanism
runes
was
was way.
Yeah, he was 14.
Yeah,
We didn't say what time though that he started the
I'm only
shamanism
30
though.
though, so.
Oh, you're so young. We weren't sure about the time of the shamanism though either though. So the runes though, how do you read the runes? Is it like by like the different symbols on each
Yeah.
piece?
So I think I approach the runes at least a little bit differently from a lot of people. I see each one kind of as a thread.
Okay.
More than like this is a canned definition. And if you look at history, it's all over and it's wild. And I've looked at so much stuff. But in my personal experience, I just started seeing them as like threads.
Now, what do you mean by threads?
So I actually start the class off by playing musical, what would you call it? Movie soundtracks.
Okay.
So I'll play movie soundtracks. So I played Ghost. I feel like the first class I gave, I played the Ghost from the movie Ghost, and people were listening to it. And I tried to explain what threads were, and I figure if I just give you an example, it'll work better.
Okay.
Right.
So somebody on this end of the room said, oh, this music is like deep and love, and it's not a flitting fancy. It's like deep. These are like older people walking hand in hand forever. It's this long romance. And then the other side of the room, somebody equally as obvious and aware and discerning or whatever said, this is deep longing and missing, right? And those two things sort of go together, right? That's what I mean by like a thread.
Oh, so
it's
like
like if you
different
didn't
concepts.
have it, you couldn't lose it. If it wasn't that good, it wouldn't be that bad to lose. So for each of the runes in my practice, when those things come up, they're just threads, and you just start laying those threads over each other and seeing like where they were on that spectrum for each piece
okay.
to sort of get pictures of what's going on.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, it's
Have you always read the runes that way? Or
No.
is this just, okay.
Nope. So when I first started, it was very much like the way, I don't read tarot this way either, but it's very much like this is the thing. Like you just look in a book and this equals that. And I feel that's very constraining. You've got like 78 tarot cards or 24 runes to represent everything in the existence of humanity.
Yeah.
Like they need to represent a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? The amount of context that's missing from saying this rune is about this or this tarot card.
Oh, so
but when
it's
I
more
first started,
intuitive.
it was more like, yeah, now it's very, very intuitive.
Okay. Yeah, because that's how I read my cards though too. There's more intuitive.
Yeah, let things pop and come to mind. Yeah, you don't want to be like a robot, like beep boop.
Yeah, it's too much to remember anyway.
Yeah, like here's the place in a spread, and this card, it's like a bicycle lock, and if you get it all right, you got a magical answer. I feel like that's the way a lot of books are, and I think that's a great way for people to approach it sometimes. But
a
it's
good
not the
guide.
end.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's a good guide.
It is
though.
a good
That's,
guide.
that helps you to get to where you need to be.
That's
for
right.
those,
It
though.
helps you learn stuff, and then you should always take it further.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how do they contact you?
Facebook is probably best.
Okay.
Facebook, I have different events in different places. I've been running classes at the Mind's Eye and at Ascension Next, and there's a few more places that I'll probably be working with. In
So
a
they'll
couple
find
months.
on Facebook under you, under Brett Sheldon?
Yeah, if they can find me under Brett Sheldon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all kinds of crazy stuff on there.
What kind of crazy stuff?
That's what my work calls it.
Okay. The more logical minded people though, right?
Yes, they're engineers and scientists. They're definitely a different
Yeah, the
crowd.
more logic minds, yeah. Yeah, the more logic minds. Yeah, that always fascinates me though when there's logic minded people that they actually do this work though too, because you use both sides of your brain, which I find
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating though.
Yeah.
Very few people can do that. Most of us cannot do both. You know, that I find though, most of us just do the more creative part of it though too though. So it's just to see that logic minded people though, it's like, hey, anybody can do this. You know? So it's just-
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I find
sure.
that really amazing though to do that though.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's what you trust. If you lean on logic so much, then you never get to the point that you trust.
But we need logic for different things. though, too, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, definitely different things. And we need both.
I actually had a book. I had an astrology book, East and West astrology book that broke logic. Like I couldn't figure out how this knew my own children even better than I did, and better than they knew themselves. I knew all my friends to boot, and it's like I could get all the scientists and researchers I wanted, and that ended the why. Like I was used to taking things apart and putting them together, or understanding things logically, and there was no way. And then it was like I let go, and then you let go, and then it's like I
here's
have
the
to
way,
trust
yeah.
it. It's more than I could do, or any other group of friends, or anybody else I could think of. And just that first bit of trust just starts opening doors after doors after doors, and then it just goes fast,
Yeah.
and deep into it. Great.
Yeah, I always find it interesting how one thing leads to another. So is there an average amount of classes you give throughout the year, or just how it goes?
It's usually about one a week, and then I usually
Not that often. Okay.
yeah, and I usually do at least one class a week myself.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't realize it was that often. So for
Yeah,
the
it's
class,
a little crazy right now.
yeah, that sounds like it's a lot. So for
But I
the
love
class, yeah, that's what helps it though, right?
Yeah,
So for the
it feels
classes,
great.
do you focus on just one rune per week though, or is it you just teach all the runes? For the
So what I
class?
usually do is I'll teach like 8 runes per class.
Okay.
And then at the time, people should go practice. And then I actually use shamanic techniques to allow people to meet the runes for themselves. So I'll drum and let people pick runes from their names, or just some at random, or if they focus on that and they get other runes, that's fine. Or they just have different experiences, and we'll talk about what runes that might have been associated with. It's very different, like
Okay. Yeah. Your
technique.
approach is different, but it's a good
Kind
like-
of getting people to feel the runes, inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't expect, there's no test, so, some people will experience 5 runes or maybe just 3, but then they have the technique that they can go,
And do the others.
yeah. There's like enough of a skeleton that when they leave that they can just go as deep as they want forever.
So how many runes are there in a set?
24.
24. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not like it's 48 or anything like that. So it's probably like 3 or 4 classes then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's usually 3 classes.
3. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so it's not like a crazy amount of, like a lot of people's time.
It goes pretty fast.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it probably could be longer. I feel like I've got tarot was like 5 weeks. This could probably be 5 weeks too. I feel like that's just hard for people to get to. So I'm trying to like tightening it up, tighten it up, and
Yeah. to
probably
make it
break
easier
things
for
into
people.
smaller classes.
Yeah.
I mean, people are like often like late or whatever. I'll come in early. And,
If you
I
had-
know it's wacky.
If you had one thing to say about runes that makes them different than, let's say tarot or shamanic reading of some sort.
I would say the beautiful thing about runes, only to a point, and then it's almost like the opposite, is people don't usually know them as well. Right, so people come in, and I think a lot of people that are reading in tarot are usually like, oh, I'm not somebody who's read more books than I have or whatever, so they're a little bit hesitant. The runes, you can read a lot of books, and there's a lot of overlap, but I feel it's a little easier,
Right.
and there's not as many people that know it. But then some people are very polarized in the runes, so even though it's kind of the Wild West in some ways, then some people have taken their
Right.
Wild West and be like, this is the only Wild West,
Right,
in a way
right.
that I don't usually see
Right.
in tarot, but it's their personal experience,
Right.
that makes them a little more, zealous about those things,
Right.
as opposed to like I've read all the tarot
So
books.
I find that very interesting because I come from an herbology background, and there's one woman very well known in this country. In fact, she'll probably be at the International Herbal Symposium this June. Is that she focuses on learning one plant at a time and getting to know that plant, reading as much as you can, getting all the information you can about it, and then move on to another one.
Absolutely,
And,
it's a great idea.
and so when you do this, you get a good repertoire, you get a good foundation, and then the other ones kind of fall into place, and they start to group themselves
Sure.
in your mind as to why you want to use this one here, and it's a good one to use over here,
Yep.
so.
It's like all of the the different techniques or modalities. They're all just like a rubber band ball, right? It's like you could learn tarot and figure it out, and you could add runes, and you could put whatever
Right.
you want in there, and it all
Right.
just builds. But if
Right.
you try to do it all at once, like, yeah, that's definitely crazy.
Yeah.
Master of nothing.
Yeah, a brain can only take so much. So that's where the challenge is on the physical dimension side. But time, though, you can do anything with time. Just love it that way. So what do you find the most common questions are, though, when it comes to either someone coming to you as a client or as a student?
Common questions. I think there's a lot of assumption that they're related to Norse gods and whatever, and it's not.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that that's necessarily so. I think parts of it definitely are, and there's a lot of overlap, I think, with other stuff. I mean, I've got deep personal opinions that are hard to prove, and there's lots of other stuff out there that's hard to approve. And connections there, I think they're open to anybody. I think they're accessible to anybody. In fact, I think English speakers are supposed to be like some of the people that actually understand the sounds the best, just the way the language unfolded.
Interesting.
Yeah, the runes are actually a language, or I'm sorry, an alphabet.
An alphabet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you write with them and spell with them. And
Interesting concept. I never was aware of that.
Yeah, they're an
Yeah.
alphabet.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware either till I took the classes.
Yeah.
yeah, so you can write your name, you could write whatever you wanted in runes.
Interesting. So have you ever done that at your house though? Just have the runes for certain say welcome. How some people have that.
Oh,
though, at the door?
absolutely.
You do have that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
it's
do you
fun.
get questions on that all the time, or like? Hey,
Yeah,
what does
but a
that
lot of
mean?
time you can show it and you can actually spell, like looking at the runes, like, oh, that's an F. It looks like an F. Sounds like an F. So it's not hard to pick up as an alphabet
Okay.
at all.
Okay. So for for the runes though, did it take long though to start making the runes, or when you first started reading, getting the readings from them?
As soon as I got the book at 14, I grabbed like a Nike box and cut it open. And was
So
off
it
to the
was
races.
right away.
Yeah, I had to.
Okay. Oh,
You
okay.
had to. If you want to use it like a divination or whatever, like,
Okay, so they encouraged you, the book that you read.
yeah, I
though.
had never seen runes made anywhere. I just saw in this book that these symbols meant different things. Today, if I wanted to make stories, I could go look up emotions or whatever and get the lists. But before the internet, this was very neat that they took these human,
Yeah.
objectives and goals and whatever, and sort of created mindsets or whatever, and that I could just play with them and randomize them and see patterns unfolding that just spoke like.
Yeah.
They just spoke, even at the basic level, just saying this is all they are. They are only 24 things and not the billions of things humans experience. It was
That's it.
still incredible
Right.
to see how much power they had to tell you things and change your perspective and open your mind.
Now, do you see the runes are more popular now than it was when we first started learning about it?
So the divination part only started, I think, in like the 70s. That's it.
Oh, okay.
So there's history that says they did, there's history that said they didn't. I think it's an alphabet, the same way we use an alphabet now, it was probably magical. But I think Ralph Blum started it, I think, in the 70s. And most of the modern, neo-pagan rune stuff has actually just been layered on top of that over and over, more than like deep diving into the people that use them or whatever. And so people, I think, are starting to figure out and weave all of those things together. If that answers.
Yeah, it does. It does, yeah. It's just interesting to see how things evolve over time, though.
Yeah.
For that, though. And
Yeah,
then
that
we're
kind of
old-
came out.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're old enough to remember what it's like though before the internet, though, too, though. So that's an interesting take on stuff, though, too.
Do you find, looking for a little diversity here, I mean, many of your readers of cards, and of course not all, are women. Do you find a stronger affinity with men towards the runes?
I
And it's just a
haven't personally.
generalization.
Yeah, I haven't personally. I know the people that come to my classes, and it has been primarily women, but that's been all of them.
That's
so I don't know how to weigh them back and forth.